Thank you very much, Kai. Dear President Kai Schlegelmilch, dear Professor Mazzucato, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of Green Budget Germany. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to deliver this laudatory speech today here at Green Budget Germany's conference. And it is for an eminent laureate, Professor Mariana Mazzucato from University College London. So there was supposed to be a round of applause now. Thanks. Okay, thanks very much. First of all, dear Kai, let me thank you very much for the invitation to give this short speech today. We have known each other for 28 years now, I counted, since 1993. There was actually 1 year before Green Budget Germany was founded. And at the time, you were a pioneer in the development of an ecological tax reform, an approach that I soon came to embrace and that I still embrace today. I have closely watched Green Budget Germany develop and prosper, and I'm very glad that we had the pleasure to cooperate on many occasions. And just to remember, last year we had a cooperation. We co-authored a study for the German Federal Ministry of the Environment on how to integrate social and environmental goals into the government's economic recovery package. And just as a short summary, the package adopted by the government still had some deficits, but it avoided some obvious mistakes. For example, you don't find there any purchase subsidies for cars with conventional combustion engines, and instead you even find a well-funded chapter on future investments in the hydrogen economy. So that was quite some progress, I think. But now, dear Mariana Mazzucato, let me turn to the important, but unfortunately also virtually impossible task of explaining in what's left of my 10 minutes all your brilliant achievements and why you so very much deserve to be awarded the Adam-Smith-Prize. Okay, so although it's impossible, I'll try my very best, and I think the best way to start is by looking back at the state of economics and economic policy advice before the global financial and economic crisis in 2008. Back then, in my view, economics, or at least the dominant economic policy advice derived from economics, used to be in a very dissatisfactory state, mainly for 3 reasons. The first reason is that economics used to put very much, and in my view, unjustified trust into unregulated free markets and their capability of solving most economic problems. Second, correspondingly, government allegedly incapable of finding solutions to economic and social problems was looked at with deep distrust. Deregulation, privatization, dismantling the welfare state, and actively reducing the government's ability to act and react were in the focus of economic policy advice. And the third critical point is that the whole attitude of economics, I think, concerning the possibility of finding political answers to society's pressing problems became a very pessimistic one. Many economists seem to serve as guardians of free market principles, and the whole attitude was that of warning politicians or the public that certain red lines must not be crossed because that would lead to disaster. The dismal science, I think, was back once again, and economists were destructively telling politicians and the public mostly what must not and cannot be done, instead of what can be done to solve the big and pressing problems. Okay, so by the way, that was also a view particularly widespread in Germany, and I'm afraid also in the German Council of Economic Experts, and I can say so because at the time I was not a member of the council. But I think you know what I mean. Of course, by now, this dismal dominant view of economics has been challenged and very much shaken by the 2008 financial crisis. And for me, dear Mariana Mazzucato, your overarching contribution and achievement was to intellectually challenge all 3 of those 3 dominant propositions. You did so in your rigorous academic articles, but also in your by now famous books, The Entrepreneurial State, The Value of Everything, and most recently, Mission Economy, a moonshot guide to challenging capitalism. And in what follows, I change a little bit the order of appearance to summarize what I think you contributed against those 3 propositions. First, In The Value of Everything, you challenge free market beliefs and argue that the 2008 financial crisis was a consequence of the failure of economic thinking. And according to your analysis, the reasons for that are to be found in the financialization of the economy, a focus on maximizing short-term profits instead of addressing long-term challenges, and a conviction that the public sector is slow, in constant danger of picking the wrong winners, incapable of being truly productive and wasting taxpayers' money. And accordingly to this view, governments are to leave markets and economic actors alone as much as possible. And as a result of this wrong kind of thinking, you argue that much of the financial support measures in the crisis remained within the finance, insurance, and real estate sectors and were not turned into real economy investments in innovative companies, public infrastructures, and so on. And although Germany was lucky, quite lucky, and came out of the crisis without severe problems, I think with a view to the deplorable state of some of Germany's public infrastructure, I think we can see that you were quite right with your analysis. Second, you state that rather than just adding a few more public sector investments and fixing market failures, you argue for an entirely different view of what the state can and should do. In addition to redistribution, fixing environmental externalities and providing a level playing field for private sector competition, you argue that the state should do much more. In The Entrepreneurial State, you show that government can be and has been a tremendous force in taking risk and advancing technological innovation and creating wealth in turn. You point out that many of the most fundamental technological innovations in recent decades, from the internet, GPS, to touch screens, modern batteries, have all been the result of publicly funded research and turned into marketable products by private companies, such as the smartphones that actually most of us carry in our pockets. Mariana Mazzucato, you warn that simply repeating stories of failed public investment and limiting the government's role to fixing market failure will lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy in which the government cannot create value and relies largely on the private sector for everything else. Therefore, in order to play a more active role, the government, in your view, needs to build capabilities and not just leave value creation to private actors. According to your view, it is not about replacing private actors as forces of innovation, but about shaping markets by defining bold missions and creating a new form of collaboration between public and private actors. Therefore, and that's your third contribution and challenge to the orthodox view, your optimistic contribution, it's not dismal anymore, it's an optimistic contribution, is the mission approach as your answer to the multiple economic, social, and ecological crises that you turn to in Mission Economy. It's a rethinking of the role of government and private actors, and the view that this can serve in solving the pressing societal problems. Governments need to set ambitious goals, mobilize actors and resources to develop solutions for missions such as climate protection or the cleanup of oceans. In that, you insist that it is not just about leveling the playing field, but about actively tilting it to reward the innovating actors. And one important feature of your understanding of a mission is underlined when you say missions must be inspirational and not just mobilize investment, but also the citizens. That's extremely important, obviously, in democracies. Dear Mariana, your analysis and arguments have made you world famous and influential. Your mission approach to solving the big problems of society has even made it into the German Social Democratic Party's manifesto for the recent federal elections. Therefore, it's not unlikely that the future German Chancellor will actually endorse your mission approach to innovation and economic policy. And caution, this is irony. You always have to say that in front of a German audience. Somewhat ironically, I would like to add that it's maybe an even greater achievement that your mission approach has finally made it into the German Council of Economic Advisors annual reports. First, as a potential way of approaching industrial policy, and second, and more importantly, as a way to understand and direct the socio-ecological transformation by carbon pricing in combination with research and development, infrastructure investment, and targeted support. And I think That latter application of your approach to the ecological challenge, of course, provides the link of your contributions to Green Budget Germany and the prize that you have been awarded. And therefore, let me just say that in your book, you have a whole chapter, a subchapter on mission, the new Green Deal. And you suggest that the model for sustainable capitalism needs to change, as the mode of solving problems in one area was creating new problems in others. And this whole set of questions, how to find a sustainable form of a market economy, is exactly what Green Budget Germany is looking for when looking for ökologisch-soziale Marktwirtschaft in German. So that's at the heart of what Green Budget Germany has been working for ever since its founding for more than 25 years. And so let me just conclude. Dear Mariana Mazzucato, very cordial congratulations on the Adam-Smith-Prize by Green Budget Germany. And now I'm very much looking forward to your response and the discussion afterwards. Thank you very much.